I've seen with a medical insurer is actually sort of being closer to influencing and supporting underwriting decisions by being able to run complex simulations, which previously they wouldn't be able to, but now they can, because from cloud infrastructure is more readily available for them, along with modern analytical tools. So, overall, the level of sophistication is going up, the position in the value chain is going up, the speed is going up. It's an exciting time, I think.
You're listening to Rethinking Insurance, a podcast series from WTW where we discuss the issues facing P&C, life, and composite insurers around the globe, as well as exploring the latest tools, techniques, and innovations that will help you rethink insurance.
Hello, and welcome to this latest episode of the Rethinking Insurance podcast. My name is Lisa Balboa. I'm a Senior Director in WTW's Global Health Advisory Practice, and I'm delighted to be your host for today's podcast. Today, we're talking about technology transformation in health insurance, and more importantly, why it so often feels like the industry is trying to rebuild the plane while flying it. Medical inflation is rising, customer expectations are changing, AI is being talked about everywhere. And against this backdrop, health insurers are under pressure to move faster without losing control. So what actually matters? And what separates valuable technology transformation from expensive theatre? To help us answer this question and dive deeper into today's topic, I'm excited to be joined by two leaders within our technology practice, Algirdas Dineika and Tawhid Rahman. Al, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, happy to be here.
Tawhid, great to have you here as well.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Likewise.
So, Al, let's start with you. In your view, what are the key drivers of technology transformation in health insurance right now?
So first of all, it is not transformation for the transformation's sake. It is driven by the real business pressure like medical inflation, operational complexity, product innovation, and the need to respond to the market and competitive pressures. At the same time, technology maturity has moved on a lot, and there has been an explosion in the range of enterprise and niche solutions available to the insurers. So it can feel like there is a technology answer for almost any business problem. And there are plenty of success stories that reinforce that view. But what I would say that usually what we call the technology transformation is typically the business transformation enabled by the technology.
Fantastic insights. And Tawhid, what would you add to that?
I'd say from an enterprise technology point of view, there's few recurring drivers I see CIOs and chief technology officers use when they're shaping their investment case for tech transformation. Speed is definitely one of them. So this is not simply about cost saving, but there's genuine need for speed and faster turnaround time, particularly relevant for certain markets where turnaround time for customer and market-facing processes has a direct impact on the top-line performance of the business. A need for scalability, so this is being able to grow profitably and sort of decouple revenue from headcount, relying on strong technology foundation that can grow with the business while maintaining profit margins. And the other I see is adaptability, because as market conditions force organizations to pivot and change their strategies, they require tech to be flexible enough, composable enough that you don't need to go on 2-3 year programs every time your strategy changes. So that's how I'd look at the kind of key drivers behind technology transformation within the industry.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, that need for speed, that need for adaptability. And I know we've all heard stories of businesses investing heavily in transformation, only for those expected benefits to fall short. So Al, really keen to get your views first of all. Why do so many technology transformation programs struggle to deliver?
That's a very good question. And I personally think that technology is not the factor there. Technologies can work, and there are plenty of success stories where they do work. The challenge, in my view, is that insurers, they run multiple programs at the same time with the competing priorities, sometimes the competing objectives. So it's almost like you're running a race within your organization, which department can transform faster. And at the same time, insurers typically underinvest into the transformation capability itself. So when I look into the transformation programs that struggle, it's not necessarily about the technology doesn't work. It's more about how you manage a transformation, how effectively you can deploy the technology to support the business, and how much of the governance you apply or how effective the governance is.
Yeah, so there's a real need for those departments to work together in a more joined up approach and avoiding those silos. I think those insights are really valuable. And Tawhid, interested, do you have some other learnings you've seen in this space too?
That was really good take, Al, because I think, if you think about that covering how you go about transforming, most of my work in the architecture space is, what needs to transform. And, some of the shared characteristics I see of, such programs that have struggled to deliver on their benefits are things like, starting off with very kind of overly flat strategies, not making conscious choices up front, or designing strategies that keeps everyone happy because you need to buy in everyone's support, but then you end up promising more than what you could realistically achieve, and those strategies don't help prioritize where to invest company resources. The mismatch between ambition and execution comes up many times. Like, it looks good on paper, but once you move into execution, it doesn't survive reality. And the one I find interesting is sunk cost fallacies, where companies will continue to throw good money after bad decisions, or because they've spent a certain amount of time, resource, and money on certain systems which may no longer be fit for purpose. It's continuing to try to make that work, as opposed to being able to course correct and sort of cut your losses while it can still be absorbed. Those are the ones that I personally see when architecting for these kind of transformation programs.
Really great to get those first-hand insights. And we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about the opportunities for technology transformation, and that's all at an organizational level. I'm also really keen to understand, what does this mean for the people doing the work day to day in health insurers? So I'm an actuary by background. I'm sure many of our listeners are actuaries or leading actuarial teams working in insurers. So keen to understand, how is technology changing that day-to-day role of actuaries in health insurance? Maybe Al, let's start with you.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question, because technology and people and process, they need to live together. And what technology brings into the picture is ability to do more things, more complex models. But again, that's not necessarily the most important change in the actuarial profession, that you have technology to build more complex models. It's all about the speed of the deployment of those models and insights into the operational processes where the decisions are made, and at what speed actuaries need to react and be able to deploy those insights. So the market conditions are changing rapidly. And if you have a technology that can handle the complex model and build up the complex model, and if you have a technology that you can deploy that decision model into the real production, real life process within minutes, the expectation is that you will need to react to the market trends, because your competitors will react to the market trends. And I think that's the biggest change in the actual profession, because you're not sitting in the background and commenting from the sidelines. You are actually increasing in the pitch and making decisions that can impact the business outcomes very rapidly. So I think that's the biggest change, that the complexity of technology and interconnectivity of technologies allows actuaries to build the models and deploy decisions straight into the process in a very effective way. And it means that actuaries need to act in the same effective way, efficiently, and at speed. And that puts more pressure on the actual profession to respond to that challenge.
Totally agree. And Tawhid, I know you've worked closely with actuarial teams deploying technology. What would you add?
I could share some, let's say, observations that I see, from from the ground up. So, actuarial teams I work with who are embracing modern technologies that is provided by their central IT and data teams. Certain activities I see changing, shifting in focus. Like one of them is, having to spend less time on data cleansing and data preparation activities that they would have previously done, and focus more time on like extracting insights and being able to explain it. This oftentimes is underpinned by either maturity in data product engineering within the company, and more recently with generative AI. I've seen some incredible use cases where actuaries are using natural language to prepare data as opposed to wait weeks and months. Right. The availability of kind of centralized data platform also is helping actuaries increase their focus towards portfolio level analytics, because now they're able to bring incredibly large volumes of data in one platform and be able to explain that to not just their fellow actuaries but also underwriters and finance, because everyone reads off the same data set. And the other I've seen with a medical insurer is actually sort of being closer to influencing and supporting underwriting decisions by being able to run complex simulations, which previously they wouldn't be able to, but now they can, because from cloud infrastructure is more readily available for them, along with modern analytical tools. So, overall, the level of sophistication is going up, the position in the value chain is going up, the speed is going up. It's an exciting time, I think.
Absolutely. There's so much hype out there. There's so much promise, but it's great to get those practical perspectives on some things that we're seeing in this space.
And Lisa, maybe just to add one, reflecting what Tawhid said, because technology is moving on, and there's so much technology available, and to the same transformation theme, actuaries are no longer sitting in the business as usual process. They are the drivers of the transformation. So I think another change is that actuaries need to understand the technology and the trends and be participants of the transformation programs more than before. So I think that's another change to the actual profession.
Definitely. Yeah, getting into that driving seat and really owning the technology transformation, being in that leading role as well. And I think we've touched on a few practical use cases already. Of course, there's advanced analytics and AI, and really keen, Tawhid, maybe building on some of the examples you shared. What does that look like in health insurance today? Where do we see advanced analytics and AI playing a role?
I think I see it in sort of three layers. So one is, which I covered already, which is actuarial teams and their peers outside actuarial are able to rely on the same source of truth when it comes to policies they've underwritten, claims they've been paying out, premium calculations, loss ratio calculations. So that's enabled by enterprise data platforms. That for me is kind of level one. You then have the adoption of machine learning operations. So actuarial teams having the ability to put machine learning models into operational use instead of having to translate them into rule-based systems. That brings a massive benefit in how they can not just develop sophisticated models, but also embed it into various different workflows. And with generative AI, I've seen some really exciting work with a particular team who were using it to analyze huge volumes of SEC filings, huge volumes of unstructured documents, so policy documents, claims documents, because generative AI is particularly good at extracting insights from unstructured data, and they can then use that to develop model features that then go into their MLOps process. So the actuarial teams who are taking time and investing in learning how these technologies work and have IT functions that make these technologies available to them, I think they're coming up with very exciting, innovative use of these tech that directly benefits their pricing models and benefits their portfolio analytics, etc. Right?
Yeah, it's super reassuring thinking about the hype to hear firsthand the value that is being delivered to actuarial teams here. And interested in your perspective on this as well, Al. What have you seen in terms of advanced analytics and AI in the health insurance space?
I would say that there is an element of specificity about the health insurance, but more as well about the insurance itself. What I see in health insurance that sometimes Gen AI can support plugging the data gaps. So some insurers, they need to understand the medical information and medical history, and sometimes that information might not be available, but pharmacy information, prescription information might be available. So again, from the prescriptions, extracting and coding or assuming types of conditions and medical information could be relevant is really interesting, because suddenly you kind of have a lack of information or data, but you can use other information data to fill the gap. And I think that's where GenAI is really interesting. The use cases that are not specific for health insurance, but for insurance. So I think in general, plugging in the predictive models into the workflows and customer experiences and is really critical. So again, there is an element where both Gen AI and analytics, they enhance the journeys, they enhance the workflows, they can basically deliver decisions at the point where decision is needed. Either it is a customer facing decision or a specific situation, so you can serve your customer better because he's in a specific kind of a narrow situation, how you need to deal with that specific customer. So that's non-health insurance, but more insurance specific. And I think I'm a huge fan of deploying advanced analytics into operational flows. And I think AI realistically will, and specifically with the Gen AI element, will have a huge potential. It has a huge potential.
Yeah, totally agree. Such a wealth of opportunities in this space. And I want to touch on something that you were both talking about earlier on around teams are all innovating in this space. Sometimes it can feel like different teams are competing against each other to innovate, and that can be a barrier in some cases. So is there a risk here that insurers are trying to do too much at once and need to prioritize? And if that is the case, Tawhid, maybe let's start with you. Where do insurers need to make those choices clearer in their technology strategy? How can they handle this prioritization dilemma?
I really like this question because it's a two-part question in my mind. So, one part of it is, I think we covered at the beginning, is around like why do some of the transformation programs fail? It's because they try to achieve too many things at the same time, right? But when it comes to like making clear choices when they are defining their technology strategy, I find time and time again that the choices is less about the tech itself, but more about how the tech is structured to enable what the business is trying to achieve over a medium to long term, right? The things I find more successful organizations do is right at the outset they're able to identify what distinguishes them from the market or from their peers. So what do they need to really be distinctively good at in order to achieve their strategy? So this helps with identifying where across the entire tech stack they need flexibility and control, and they're happy to trade off time to market and ease of running the tech. This for me is quite fundamental, because if you're not clear on what capability makes you win and be distinctive, then chances are you'll be spending effort trying to do everything. The second is the ownership model, and this is an important topic in almost every client conversation I have, because the role of the actuary is expanding into tech aspects of the role, data aspects of the role, and the same is happening with IT and data. So to your point, like instead of having multiple teams go off and do innovative projects in pockets, really important to have thought through the operating model between those three entities. So between technology, data, and actuarial teams, who owns what, right? But my favorite one here is to start with an architectural blueprint, because that tells you the shape and structure of what you're about to build or develop, rather than choosing the tech first. So it's less about which cloud platform or which API tech stack or which policy admin system, etc. It's more about how these components need to fit. And for some occasions, I will use an analogy of designing the structure of the building rather than choosing the building material. And I use this analogy because you could kind of use the same building material to build both a hospital and a hotel. It's the same steel, same concrete, same glass, but they're designed and structured differently because they serve different purposes, right? So I'd probably list those three things as the clear choices you need to make before you embark on a transformation journey.
Yeah, great advice. And I know there's lots of skyscrapers, new ones being built in London all around us, where we're sitting now recording this. And of course, you wouldn't start building that without having the architectural blueprint first. So it makes total sense. Keen, Al, for your input here, what choices do you see that insurers need to make in this space when it comes to their technology strategy?
I just can only echo what Tawhid is saying. It's all about, first of all, the technology choices start before the technology choices. So you need to have a clear direction, strategic direction. You need to understand what operating model you want to have at the end and what ambition you have. And those elements will shape the technologies you're going to buy to enable your target operating model and enable your ambition. And I'll give you some examples. Some actuarial teams might want to be more data focused, and they move into an operating model where data scientist skills are primary skills. So actuaries will have technology skills, data scientist skills, and they will work with the data themselves, right? But that means that they're kind of moving their skill set over the technology and data scientists rather than actuarial science itself, right? And that is absolutely fine. That might be a good choice because you might say, I will harvest the data, and my ambition is that I will do that at scale, and I will have skills to do it, right? Other option is that you're going to focus in your future on operating model where your actuaries are primarily kind of enhancing actuarial skills, and technology needs to serve them to multiply, amplify, and be better actuaries rather than data scientists, right? So in that case, you might buy the solutions that are specialized solutions, easier to work with, and actuaries will be enabled to kind of self-serve them, right? So you kind of have two operating models or two strategic directions and ambition, and those choices drive the technology choices. Because in one case, you can build an amazing data platform, but then actuaries will need to work in that data platform, or they're going to have dependencies on technology people and engineers. In other option, you're going to have a specialized solution that needs to fit into your overall, let's say, data platform and data strategy and MLOps strategy, but the actuaries will be much more independent and can focus on kind of their primary activity as a actuarial activity rather than data and technology engineering.
Yeah, so I think you've explained really well, Al, the need for specialized actuarial solutions in the future, especially in a complex business like health insurance. I can see there's clearly a lot that businesses need to do to think through how an actuary is going to thrive and use technology in the right ways there. And one thing, Tawhid, that you mentioned is the real importance of actually using technology to differentiate in the market. So insurers that make the right choices, they're the right choices because they're choices that are helping to boost what their competitive advantages are. So if we look ahead, what can insurers do to turn technology into that competitive advantage?
So I'll provide a general answer first, and then maybe we could touch on what it means in health insurance. So if I zoom out from all of this, there are three, let's call it domains, three key domains that have to work in tandem. So there's data technology, there's AI technology, and there's digital technology. The winning companies in the market figure out a way of creating what's called a flywheel effect that combines all of these three while also keeping the business well governed. So as an example, you have the ability to extract external market intelligence. That's data. You have the ability to draw insights from it and run intelligent processes on it. That's AI. And then you have the ability to embed that into your digital stack, how you connect with the rest of the market when you push out your, let's say, your prices or your decisions. So, the winning companies have figured out how to get these three things almost running in a cyclical fashion, as opposed to thinking about, I'm going to run 3 tech transformation programs, right? So that then delivers the promise of speed, scalability, and adaptability, which I was talking about at the beginning. So they don't necessarily see this as, I'm going to do a project and then walk away and then everything changes. They always think about, okay, how's this thing going to run in BAU, and how do we make this wheel, rotate faster and faster over time? Al, did you want to build on that or add to that?
Yes, I can add. So I think you're absolutely right. There are multiple components to the technology that people need to understand. But if I would step back and understand what problem technology tries to solve, and you're looking at the business challenges, and the business challenges are complex, and there is no single technology that can address all of them at the same time. So what you need to realize that modern technologies are not the single technology, it's an ecosystem. Right? You will have data, as Tawhid said, you will have digital technologies, you will have specialized tools and core platforms, and you will have technologies from your partners that are embedded in your ecosystem. So as long as you understand that, then you start to think that, okay, so the key element is for those technologies to interoperate, that those technologies can change, because one day, one component might be really good, but suddenly the market shifted and another technology and component can bring you a competitive advantage. So I think that if you understand the complexity of what modern technology is, and it's an ecosystem, ability to understand your ecosystem, ability to react to the changes and transform, I think it will be the key elements that will give you the competitive advantage. It's not implementing single technology and sticking to it for years, but it's about flexibility to change technologies and components within your architecture to address your business challenges when you have the challenge in front of you.
Thanks. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. We've heard from Algirdas and Tawhid that success is not defined solely by the technology that health insurers adopt, but by how effectively you equip your people to use that technology in new ways to drive business value, strengthen performance, and improve customer outcomes. And speed, scalability, and adaptability are key to this. So my thanks to Tawhid for your depth and clarity of insights.
Thank you very much. And it was nice to participate in the podcast today.
It was great to have you. And my thanks to Algirdas for your wealth of insights that you shared with us today.
Thank you very much, and it's great to be here.
And if today's discussion has sparked questions or ideas about technology transformation within your own organization, we'd be delighted to continue the conversation. So please feel free to reach out to myself, Algirdas, or Tawhid directly. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to welcoming you back for the next episode.
Thank you for joining us for this WTW podcast featuring the latest perspectives on the intersection of people, capital, and risk. For more information, visit the Insights section of WTWCO.com. This podcast is for general discussion and/or information only, is not intended to be relied upon, and action based on or in connection with anything contained herein should not be taken without first obtaining specific advice from a suitably qualified professional.